Greetings and welcome back. I am Mike at CereProds, and today we're going to be looking at the differences between the Sony FX9 and the Sony FS7. In 2014, Sony released the FS7, which quickly became the industry standard workhorse for reality TV, documentaries, and the like. A few years later, in 2017, they released the FS7 II, which is right here, and this added a few improvements, including the variable ND filter, which really was a game changer when it came out, including some ergonomic changes, including 10 user-assignable buttons, updated LCD screen, and XQD card slot for easier use. The FS7 II included the same sensor as the FS7 I, a high-performance 4K sensor originally derived from the F5. In 2019, Sony released the big brother to the FS7 II, the Sony FX9. Today, the FX9 is the most requested camera in reality TV and documentaries, and for a few good reasons. The FX9 brought a brand new sensor, double the size of the FS7 II, at roughly 36 by 19 millimeters. This compares to the FS7 at 24 by 17.8, was a huge step up and really opened the door to a lot more creativity from filmmakers' perspective. With the new sensor on the FX9, we were able to gather more information from shots, we were able to shoot in lower light, make use of a wider dynamic range, and get a more shallow depth of field and better fall off in unfocused areas. The FX9 has improved sensitivity and superior noise reduction with a rear-illuminated CMOS sensor, resulting in way less undesirable noise in those dark areas and unfocused areas when shooting run-and-gun projects. The creative freedom that you'll find in post with 15 plus stops of dynamic range is a huge step up from the FS7, and the new cinematic color science S Cinetone gives you much more latitude than in the past. The dual base ISO offers low and high base sensitivity for well-lit and underlit situations. At 800 base sensitivity, you can dial in the perfect exposure with ideal lighting and expect to see no noise in the shadows. At 4000 base sensitivity, you now have the option to shoot in extremely low light situations and expose correctly with little to no noise in the dark to mid-tone range. This gives you extreme control in any lighting situation. Dual base ISO is meant to be used in S-Log and Cine EI mode. The look and feel and ergonomic design of the FX9 versus the FS7 II and I are very similar, but as usual, Sony are quite responsive to user feedback, and a few improvements have been made, including button layout and the variable electronic ND on the FX9, as well as a few improvements here and there, including 4 audio channel inputs on the FX9 versus the previous 2. Additionally, having a hard XLR input on the camera unit itself is a massive win for professional filmmakers. Rumors about where Sony will go next with the F series are abound on the internet. Many people assume that the FX9 II will come out at some point. Sony has 2 alpha units scheduled for this year, late summer and later on in the year, and another camera offering sometime before the end of the year. This may well be the FX9 II. Changes to the FX9 II versus the Mark I are unknown as yet, but you can expect to see a larger sensor, some rumors say at least double the size of the current FX9, as well as additional shooting modes, including 120 frames per second at 4K. We don't know yet if it will be an internal RAW recorder or if we'll have to port out using a BNC to an external recorder, but firmware updates have often taken the lead on this, so maybe they'll release the FX9 II and later on down the line release some firmware updates that will increase the usability of the unit itself. It's difficult to say what the FX9 II will look like, but you can expect certainly to see a larger sensor to improve your low-light shooting abilities. And the shooting modes and recording modes will likely be updated too to include 120 frames per second at 4K and possibly higher. Additionally, with the way that the world is going, you can probably expect to see some type of camera-to-cloud system in the FX9 II, so that those people who shoot live events or news footage are able to upload directly without adding any additional hardware, or at least a minimal amount of hardware. The FX9 still checks a lot of boxes if you are not looking for full 8K coverage. Although the FX9 has been criticized for having quite a bad rolling shutter situation, as it uses the same sensor family that Sony sells to Panasonic for its Lumix range. So we can establish that the FX9 is a worthy and incredible successor to the FS7 II and FS7 I. Those cameras, by the way, are still used in productions and are definitely not worth throwing away just yet. I would always, if you had them in stock, keep hold of them because productions may well always need a B, C, D or E camera, and this is a fine unit to fall back upon. But what's next for the Sony F series? Some of the improvements for the Sony FX9 II include an 8.7 million pixel size sensor, 4K HDR. This gives you a huge improvement in shooting in low light and an image comparable with the Arri Alexa. In recording formats, you can expect 4K at 120 frames per second. Multi-base ISO settings giving you greater control across different types of lighting scenarios and better dynamic range. As always with Sony, they are very responsive to user input, so don't expect any huge ergonomic changes to the FX9 Mark II, but do expect something. With more features, you can expect the button placement to be better and the overall UI to be improved. Sony haven't confirmed a release date for the FX9 Mark II, but they do have a release schedule for 2 additional alpha units by late summer and later on in the year in 2024, and a potential new camera before the end of the year. So watch this space for any updates there. The FX9 set a very high bar for cinematic cameras. The FX9 Mark II is expected to raise that bar even higher. Pretty soon, the difference between an Arri Alexa and the FX9 II will be barely noticeable. If Sony want to send me an FX9 Mark II to test out, we'll be happy to receive it, and of course we'll give it a completely unbiased report. With no release date set for the FX9 Mark II, speculation will be wild until Sony confirm it, so watch this space and let's look out for the official release date and the official notice from Sony before we get too excited. That's all for now. Thanks very much for joining us once again. Please do like this video and subscribe to the channel on the button somewhere around this area. If you need any production services in Puerto Rico, reach out to CereProds. You can find us on our website somewhere around this, www.cereprods.com, or email me directly at mike@cereprods.com. Until then, see you next time. Thanks again for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to CereProds Puerto Rico. We are the #1 provider of film and video production services in Puerto Rico, and we are here to help your vision come to life. Hit that subscribe button and we'll see you next time.